Friends, Romans, IGN viewers, lend us your ears, eyes, and should the need arise, other body parts as well. I am Dan Stapleton, and with me is Steve Butts, who is a Rome 2 expert.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly a fan at least. We just got the build of the game, and it's a big enough game that we don't feel comfortable reviewing it right now, but we definitely wanted to give people a heads up and give them at least sort of some first impressions that we've had. We've loaded up here a game. I'm about 50 turns in here playing as the Romans. 50 turns for me is about 10 hours of gameplay. How about for you, Dan?
I haven't gotten that far. Like I'm kind of a Total War novice. Like I bounced off it a few times, honestly, because of some UI problems and things. But I'm determined to get into this one.
Gotcha.
But I'm very eager to hear what you have to say about it, Steve, because you know what, like, if there's any Total War game I should play, which one is it? Is it this one?
I think so. I really do. I'm a big fan of the setting, and Creative Assembly has learned a lot of lessons over the 10 or 15 years since the release of the original Shogun, and a lot of them are apparent in Rome 2. There's still some lingering issues that the franchise has always dealt with, but let's jump right in. For people who don't know, and I assume most people would do, but for people who don't, Rome Total War, or Rome 2 Total War, is a grand strategy game.
No, wait. Sorry. It's Total War Rome 2.
Total War Rome 2.
They changed it. They changed it, and it screws us up so often.
Yeah, they flipped the title around for Shogun, and it's just confusing. But regardless, the game is a mix of a grand strategy game where you run the empire. You basically run a single faction, and you're in charge of setting tax rates and research priorities and recruiting armies. And then that's married with a real-time cinematic battle system where you actually get to lead these troops on the field. So we'll take a look at each part here. We'll start off with the strategic layer.
The confetti here is turn-based.
Yeah, exactly. You see here, I'm doing pretty well in Rome. The Roman people are very happy with me right now. You can just click on Rome, and it'll show you public order is very high. Food's well. We're making a lot of money. We have some province effects here. And one new thing that they're doing in Total War is they're linking regions together into one administrative unit. So you see here, we've got these 4 different cities, Valathri, Roma, Arminium, and Neapolis, and you control them all at once, all as a single unit. You see here, I've got different build orders or buildings constructed in each area, and those buildings benefit every region in that area. So, for example, the things I do in Rome are going to benefit Neapolis and Valathri. You can hover over any one of these elements and see, for example, why you're getting the score you're getting. So I'm playing on a relatively normal difficulty level, so I'm getting 10 points there. I've got 6 points of building happiness. So they've really made an effort to show you some of the math behind all this and expose to you the numbers so you understand why you're doing well, why you're not doing so well, and what you need to do to improve your game.
Though at the same time, they have done a pretty not so great job of tutorials. Like, I played the introduction.
Right.
I still have very little idea how to make food happen. And Steve explained that to me earlier. I think I'm going to go home tonight and be able to figure it out. But this is a game, like I often like to say, we're beyond the age of manuals. This is a game where I think reading a manual or some real instructions would be very helpful before you jump in, or you might be a little frustrated.
Absolutely, yeah. And for example, I'm not really sure what impact the food has in this game. I know how to increase it, and I know that it's a problem when you don't have enough, but I'm not sure how it impacts the growth of your town. And that's something that's totally missing on this tooltip right here. There's no pop-up, there's no overlay, nothing.
I know it made all my troops die.
Okay, so when you start off as Rome, you own just a couple of provinces here in Italy. I've played, like I said, about 50 turns, so I've managed to get out of the peninsula a little bit. I've captured this territory right here, so I've got these 3 cities that belong to me now as well. And again, you just click on one, and you see you control them all as a single administrative unit. And I've got several cities down in the south as well, in sort of the heel and toe of the boot of Italy. And I've just marched over here and taken Syracuse away from the Syracusans. And right now, the only person I have to attack sort of heading in this direction are the Carthaginians, who are much more powerful than any of the other enemies I've come across so far. But before we get to that, I'll mention a little bit about provincial administration. Again, we've got these 3 territories here, and you see that if I pull this up, we don't control the 4th one. Now that creates some problems for me as an administrator. I'm not going to get the full benefit of everything that I'm doing in these other 3 areas because one of them isn't owned by me. And so I'm going to try to take this in just a little while here. If you do happen to control all the areas in a province, you can issue edicts, which are basically little bonuses you can give yourself. Here I've instituted bread and circuses, which means I get more food and more public order in the 4 regions that make up the single province. So let's go through the individual tooltips here. You can see the province overview, which will show you basically the buildings that you've selected. You can go into more details to see a little bit more of the math here. It's a little nerdier than I think you need to get, just in terms of figuring out what you need to do to improve the situation in your cities. But you can see they've got this nice little bit here where you've got the confetti falling down, and that's just to indicate to you that things are going really well here. And contrast that with, say, Brundisium, where there's sort of this plume of smoke here. I'm not quite sure what's going on
That's
there.
happy smoke, Steve.
But if we dive in, we see public order is really bad. It's at -90, and it's only going up by 1 per turn. And we can check here and see what's the problem. Well, they're cultural differences, right? So they're not Latins. We need to do something to convert them over to Latin culture. And there are any number of buildings and dignitaries you can send into this area to help convert them.
So Steve, with the province system, this is an entirely new thing. It wasn't in Shogun, right?
Well, they had something like it in Shogun. They've sort of been trying to bundle together regions into single administrative units. In order to reduce the burden of micromanagement late in the game, when the burden is just outrageous. You spend 20 or 30 minutes taking a single turn in some cases.
But how do you think they've done? Is this an improvement, the system, over what they had in Shogun?
I think it's helpful, but again, you have to hover over this stuff, and you have to dig down to some of these menus to find out what the problem is. With games like Civilization 4 or Civilization 5, where they have the same sort of complexity, I think Firaxis has done a better job of putting those elements right on the maps, making the map something that you can read at a glance and figure out, here's where things are going well, here's where things are going poorly. And there's a little bit of that here, but I wish there was a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, like the landscape is beautiful, but it doesn't tell me much about what's actually happening there.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a fantastically beautiful game. I mean, you see just sort of the city styles here. These are very Roman and Mediterranean, and there are other cities that you can get to that are more barbarian or more Far Eastern or more North African. So just the visuals are fantastic, and little bits of life, like little birds flying around and horses grazing out in the field.
And I like how huge the map is, too.
Oh, it's magnificent. Let's go over here and actually take a look at the whole map. This will show you basically the whole territory that you'll be fighting for. And there are numerous overlays you can rely on to help orient you to it. I think right now what I've got is the ownership overlay. So you see I've got almost all of Italy and most of this island here as well. You can see diplomatic status. I've got a client state right here. Everybody else is relatively neutral. We'll change that with Carthage in just a minute. Public order, again, Italia is doing very well. But down here where there were some Greek cities that I took, they're just not doing well. They don't like me because they're not used to being ruled by Latins. And again, region wealth, things like that. So it's helpful. I mean, you can really get sort of a bird's eye view of what's going on at your empire, but you still have to dig for those little details. And there's some things that they just don't explain very well, like you were saying, food and things like that. Let's move on to some more situational awareness type things. You're given objectives in this game, which is a nice thing for new players because it orients them towards some of the decisions and actions they'll have to take early on in the game to secure a good footing. So, hey, build 60 units. That's a great piece of advice for new players. Hold the entirety of the following province, Corsica and Sardinia, which are over here. These were just taken from me by another power, which is unfortunate, but it's nice. It gives you sort of little minor objectives along the way. And new in Total War Rome 2 are economic victories and cultural victories as well. So if you don't want to just strictly rely on warfare to win the game, you have those options as well. Although the game's called Total War, right?
Yeah, it's not partial war.
It's not partial war at all. There's obviously a fairly robust dynastic element as well. You've got your retainers, your generals, and administrators, and admirals. You can come here and see how well they're doing, see how well you're doing as a political power. You can see that my house controls over 50% of the senators in Rome. We haven't really gotten into the factional game within Rome itself yet, but I imagine this will become much more engaging as the game wears on. And over here, there are various records.
The records tab is used to log events. And
that lady's creepy.
She is a little creepy. It shows what I've done, sort of big milestones in my career as a administrator in general, and then just some general stats. You can also come to these guys, and if you want to secure promotion, move them up to a new level. You basically burn a couple of senators to do that, but you see I would get, for example, -5% upkeep for all land units if I did that.
Yeah, it's interesting how it uses political capital as almost literal currency.
You see here, I don't have options necessarily. Oh, because I don't have enough money to say assassinate some of the guys who are working for me. And that would become necessary if there was some sort of civil war situation, or if one of the lower guys in my house suddenly became very popular and started to get ambitious, and this idea that he should take over. So a lot of fun to be had there, but we haven't. The game hasn't presented any of those options to us yet. But as we said, this game is called Total War for a reason. So let's take a look at what happens on the battlefield. So we'll go ahead and
ready for battle.
Move our army that just took Syracuse. It's a little weak right now, but we'll move them over to this Carthaginian port here. So we're not at war with them right now, so it kicks us right off to the diplomacy screen, and we're allowed to accept. We see who their allies are. We don't happen to have any, which is unfortunate. Although it's strange because I do have a client state here, and they're not listed. That's interesting.
Maybe they're just counted as you.
Yeah. All right, so we'll accept that.
We take this settlement for Rome!
All right. Oh, I see here, though, before I get into battle, I have a little promotion icon here over the details for my army. And now you can promote through a sort of RPG system your generals, your armies, and any of your special agents. So, for example, if I look at my army, I see that they're accomplished skirmishers. They get plus 3% weapon damage inflicted by all missile units. And I've picked all of these bonuses for them. My general has plus 1 zeal. And this was a problem that you and I had when we first played the game. Plus 1 zeal, nobody knows what that means. And it doesn't say anywhere on here why I should care about zeal. And to find it, you've actually got to mouse over this thing, and it tells you, oh, here's what zeal does. It enables all these abilities, and you can get all these special bonuses. So, again, it's a place where I feel like the game is just not being forthcoming enough with the information that players need.
It's all there, but it's not necessarily easy to find when you want it.
Yeah, you have to dig down for it. But we'll see here. So I have a secret agent, a spy, basically, who's with this army, who can benefit it, and she can get a promotion right now. Her name is, let's see, her name is Posthumia Scapula, which I think is hilarious. So just for the sake of getting on with this, we'll give her the agent ability, plus 1 authority, and a 5% chance of critical success in all actions.
Your agent has a new skill.
Go away, creepy lady.
She is a little terrifying. All right, so we'll go ahead and
none will
finish this
escape.
move.
And performance has been a little bit spotty for us. And it's a huge game, lots of scale, but you kind of pay for that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And for example, I'm having a problem even moving this guy right now.
Commander, laying siege
So did he reach the end of his leash there?
No, see, he's still got a little bit of yellow space here. Oh, you know what? Did I actually declare war on them? Let's see here. Yeah, we're at war.
That is impossible.
Well, there you go.
Well, we'll get him next time.
So we'll end this turn. And you'll have a chance to see here one of the other issues with the game. There's so many factions in this game, and you've got to sit for a good couple of minutes while they all take their turn, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way things will get faster as you go, and factions are eliminated. At least there are fewer turns, maybe.
I'm guessing so. There'll be fewer AIs to keep track of, but as the AIs take out each other, they're going to grow in power and they're going to have more decisions to make. So I'm not sure how much it's going to streamline things. We're playing here on a pretty powerful rig, on a rig that's right around the minimum requirements for this game. This can take several minutes to work through. Yeah,
minimum requirements are pretty much never a good idea.
And here's another issue we have. So we're being shown things that we can see, but there's no mini-map here to orient you towards where you are. So if you're not really familiar with the geography and you see an enemy army sort of marching through generic forest and mountains coming on a far-end city whose name you don't really recognize, it can be difficult to find them again once your turn comes around.
There is a degree of unrest in this province, as the majority of the population follow a different culture to your own.
At the beginning of each turn, so you can kind of keep track of what's going on. And my household has expanded, so now I have basically a new member of my entourage, a dog crucifier. I love the Romans, who will give you +1 authority on the battlefield.
Is his name Michael Vick? Micus Vicus?
Oh, too soon, too soon. So you can see this guy doesn't have a lot of authority right now, so I'm going to go ahead and replace an existing retainer with this guy. All right, and now we'll take the fight directly to the...
Let them cower before Rome!
All right, now you have options here to encircle and starve the defenders out, basically, to let the computer auto-resolve the assault, which is nice. You don't have to fight every single battle. Some of them are going to be
foregone conclusion.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of a walkthrough. But just for the sake of this, we'll go ahead and lead this assault in person so we can show off the battle system. So I don't mean to be too down on the interface. It is a problem, but I really like the tone of this game. I really like what it presents to the player, and it really gets the setting right. It presents you with a lot of compelling decisions. There are lots of interesting choices that you have to make. I just wish that it helped you by delivering the information you needed to make those choices a little better.
It could be a little smoother, yes. And like it is a little bit frustrating to me that like I know there's this awesome game in there. I just have to put in all this legwork to learn it.
Right.
And I want the instant gratification. I'm just not going to get it.
Right.
But this looks like a bit of a not an evenly sided fight. Like
yeah,
you seem to be about well, not quite 2-1, but
we're about evenly matched in terms of numbers. But my group is an actual army, and the Carthaginian group is just a bunch of local city garrisons, right? You're limited, you're capped on the number of armies that you can have in the field at any one time now, so you're not going to have, as in previous Total Wars, 20 or 30 tiny armies just kind of scrambling all over the place. You're going to have 1 or 2 big armies, and to help protect your cities, the buildings that you create will automatically contribute garrisons to that city's defense if it's ever attacked. So you don't necessarily have to have an army in each and every city. And that's what I've done with the Carthaginians here. They happen to be out somewhere doing something else, so I'm basically attacking this garrison. So you have the chance to wait for a more appropriate time of day if the weather conditions or the time of day aren't quite right for you. And let's see, just for the sake of getting into this, we'll go ahead and start the battle without
getting too fancy.
Without any extra.
The radar map allows an
extra maneuvering. So you can see here I've got
Our reinforcements have arrived.
my basic melee troops, some skirmishers ahead of them.
Jupiter gives us strength.
Put them all sort of in a line here, and cavalry units up.
So it's a super tactical game, and the thing that I have, the biggest problem like getting used to, is just getting to the point where I know how fast each of these units is going to move, and you can make them double time, which expends their energy faster, but makes them get tired. But just getting them into the position they need to be in time for them to execute the plans I have has proven challenging, but it's a learning process.
Yeah. That's very true. I mean, there are a few things that help you out. You see the movement paths here, and you can hold down spacebar to see where the units are going to end up, which helps when you're trying to sort of move a lot of forces together. They've also combined land and sea battles in one experience here, which I think is really, really great. It makes it really, really compelling. Unfortunately, we don't have an enemy navy to face off against with here. But probably one of the best things about this series is just how great it looks. I mean, when you get right down to it, sort of bird's eye view of the units is just fantastic. The waves here, the individual soldiers on the deck, and the painted eyes on the trireme here. It's just beautiful. You notice, this guy, he's a standard bearer. We'll see more of that when we go check out our land forces.
Yeah, how are they doing? We kind of left them when we went sightseeing.
Yeah, we moved
they
them
stayed out of
here.
trouble.
They stayed out of trouble, largely. Let's see. Let's lock them in the formation they're in right now. So that means that they're going to stay in a relative position. So when I reset them somewhere, they're going to move
Select a formation from the options
and maintain the same relative relationship to each other, which is really helpful.
To see what it does.
In previous games, it's been very difficult to get that oriented. And when you try to get them in these narrow streets, they'll have to sort of move around a little bit to change their aspects. But it works very well. It's a very nice system. You still have some odd problems with pathfinding and things like that, but let's scroll down here and get a closer look at some of these guys. So again, you can see the standard bearer up front. And look at the variety of the units here, because there are very few twins. You see a lot of the same types of equipment on this, but the horses are different colors. Guys have different helmets, different colored cuirasses, and things like that. And it's just visually just a fantastic looking game.
They get a little bit clunky when they bunch up, but just watching that many dudes running around in formation is really amazing.
Yeah.
And it does make you feel like you're in charge, ordering that many guys around.
So without getting too fancy, let's just bring these guys together and we can show off here at the end some of the combat animations where the Carthaginians are rushing to meet my advance. And the new system has true line of sight, so if I couldn't spot these guys, I wouldn't know they were there. I can only sort of see them because they're spotted by the horses. Let's just get through here. You can see, I mean, the animations are fantastic, and yes, it's a little abstracted. Yes, there are guys who are still sort of swinging at nothing, and guys who are falling for no reason, but in general, I feel like this is a pretty credible presentation of what I imagine these battles are going to be.
Yeah, like sometimes the animations will actually sync up, and like you've got these two guys in the middle of the screen there that had that actual fight where they were they seem to be like actually connecting blows. But yeah, by and large, they're kind of just milling around and swinging.
Right.
But you know, it gets the effect across until you zoom in real close, and then there are things to look at and appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very cinematic sort of experience, and one that I just find amazingly compelling. I don't often play the game from this perspective, obviously.
You can't really play it from that perspective.
But you can scroll out here and you can see, I mean, this is exactly the city and the setting, sort of the whole atmosphere that we'd have expected from where this place was on the map. And there's just tremendous variety there, and very excited by this game. I'm willing to look past some of the flaws in terms of its general unhelpfulness with regard to some of the interface elements, but your mind was made very close.
And do you think that the tactical game is significantly improved over Shogun, or do you have a favorite Total War game for the tactical gameplay?
Well, for me, I think a lot of that is going to depend on what types of things you think are cool. You know, if you like samurais, then you're going to like Shogun more, right? I feel like tactically, the games are all relatively even. I mean, there are new tricks here, like the true line of sight and things like that. But for me, I just think the Legionnaires are just really awesome. If you like Knights, you'll like Medieval more. If you like, you know, Musketeers, you'll like Empire more. But this is Rome has always been Creative Assembly's best received game, at least critically speaking. So I don't think I'm alone in preferring this setting or this subject for the game. What about you? Are you into this type of content at all? Or?
Yeah, I think Rome is the one that speaks to me the most. Yeah, the Medieval probably after that, but Shogun I've been trying, but I can't really. The Japanese names for everything kind of makes it hard for me to figure out what's what. So when you're learning a series at first, that's not the way to go. So I think this one. I'll probably be able to get into it. I just got to get over that hump.
Yeah, this one has a little bit of that. I mean, like Legionnaires are fairly obvious, but Velites, I mean, it's not a common name. It's not something that you understand as easily as Archer or Spearman or Knight or something like that.
True.
So anyway, as I said, we don't feel comfortable reviewing the game quite yet because there's still a lot more to dig into and some performance issues to iron out. I've had a few crashes here and there. Not quite so many since we've been doing this demo, but yeah, I guess we'll be looking to do a review of this later this week, right, Dan?
Yeah, all goes according to plan. And we've still got multiplayer to check out. We've still got you can play as any one of the factions. It's a huge game. So we will be, checking in on it as regularly as we can.
Any excuse to play more of it, right?
Yeah, I know you've been waiting for this one for a long time, Steve. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And this is our quick look at Rome Total War pre-review, mid-review, I guess. For more on Total War, be sure to check back at IGN.